Hey guys, this is Richie coming at you with another online Bible study video. Today we are in the book of John, chapter 11. We just obviously finished up 10 because 10 comes before 11, obviously. So we just finished up 10 where Jesus was teaching the Jews, where he talks about being the good shepherd. He talks about being equal with God, how he and the Father are one. And then you see Jesus leave, and he goes across the Jordan River. So Jesus was in Jerusalem teaching and working with the Pharisees, trying to teach them, trying to teach the leaders of the Jewish religion there. Obviously, they weren't getting it. They were mad. They're ready to kill him. So he leaves out of there and he goes across the river Jordan. So he heads out west and goes out across the Jordan into the wilderness, kind of where John the Baptist had been doing his baptizing, doing his preaching, kind of out of the wilderness. It's not, when we think of wilderness, we think of this far out, desolate place, but it was really just on the other side of the valley, not far at all. The city of Jerusalem and the surrounding areas is not a big place, so they can get back and forth pretty quick. So basically, that's where he is. He's out in the wilderness, like we said, not really, an isolated place. And then we pick it up in John chapter 11, and we're just going to do the first 16 verses today, kind of break up the story of Lazarus pretty good. So this is what it says. So it says, now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters said to him and said, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, this illness does not lead to his death, for it is for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after he said this to the disciples, he says, let's go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and you are going there again? Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. After saying these things, he said, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he's fallen asleep, then he will recover. Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they had thought that he meant he was taking rest in sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died, and for your sake I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. So Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. All right, so here we go. And this is the beginning of the Lazarus story, and we all know the Lazarus story. If we've studied the Bible at all, if we've studied the gospel at all, if we grew up in church, we know the story of Lazarus. He's a good friend of Jesus. We know Mary and Martha. We learn a lot about Mary and Martha through the Gospels. They're an integral part of Jesus' ministry. And Lazarus is their brother, and so we read here that he's sick, and then that he eventually died. But like I said, we all know the story where he died, and Jesus goes back and he brings him back to life. And this is the beginning of the first death to life narrative. Obviously, we know the story of the resurrection. We know that Jesus died on the cross and in 3 days rose from the dead. And this is kind of a story that is alluding to this time, alluding to Jesus coming back from the dead. So it says that Lazarus of Bethany, which was their village. If you look at a map, if you just Google Bethany and Jerusalem map, Bethany and Jerusalem were very close together. I believe it was less than 3 miles. So they were very, very close together. Obviously, that's they didn't have cars back then, so 3 miles is a bit more for us now. But it was within a half day's walk for sure. It was a very close proximity from Bethany to Jerusalem. Now, across the Jordan, it would have been a little bit more of a walk for Jesus. It probably would have been a whole day's journey from the wilderness outside of the city into Bethany would have been a little bit more of a walk. But basically what has happened is Jesus has been teaching in Jerusalem. Jesus has been debating the Pharisees in Jerusalem. He's been teaching in the temple there, and they've tried to stone him several times. They've tried to kill him several times. They've tried to arrest him. And every time he has gotten away from them, and he's left. And this is what just happened in John chapter 10. They tried to stone him, and he taught a little bit more. They tried to arrest him. He taught a little bit more. And then finally he escapes, and he goes out into the wilderness. So he's in the wilderness now, and people send for him, and Mary and Martha have sent him a message that's basically saying, hey, look, the one that you love, Lazarus is sick, and he's going to die. He is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, this illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now this is a big statement that Jesus makes here. And it's a big statement that is recorded for us in John chapter 11. Lazarus gets sick and ultimately dies for the glory of God. That's hard for us to swallow as human beings. That's hard for us to swallow as people who don't fully understand everything that's going on here, for humanity not seeing the God side of it. It's, obviously God's ways are not our ways. God sees the big picture. God sees everything. He knows everything. But it's hard for us to understand that Lazarus is going to die because he gets sick. He's going to die. But the reason that happens is so God can receive glory. As humans, we are very short-term people. We look forward to what we're having for dinner tonight. We're looking forward to what we're doing tomorrow. Maybe what are we doing this weekend? Maybe we look forward to vacation. Maybe we look forward to Christmas. But that's about the farthest out we really look. We don't look from an eternity standpoint. We don't look from a lifetime standpoint. We look from a here and now standpoint. What like I said, what are we having for dinner tonight? Where are we going on vacation? What are we getting the kids for Christmas? What am I getting for Christmas? But when you understand and put yourself in the mind frame of God, God sees the whole long-term thing. God sees eternity. And as Christians, we have to fight ourselves to also look into eternity that way, and to take up a long-term view of this life, and long-term view of what we're doing, and know that we're here on this earth for 70, 80, 90 years if we're lucky, if we're super fortunate to live that long. But that is just a tiny wisp of vapor compared to the length of time that we will spend in heaven. It's mind-boggling how much we worry about little things that don't matter, like what we're going to wear or what we're going to eat, when we have all of eternity in heaven with God. So going down, Jesus says, this is not going to lead to his death. It's for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. So basically Jesus is saying, look, this bad thing that's going to happen to Lazarus, it's okay because I'm going to get glory out of it, and it is happening for my glory. So it says, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister Mary and Lazarus. Obviously these people play a huge role in Jesus' life. It says, so when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place he was at. Now look, here's Jesus who has healed the sick. He's healed the blind, he's healed the deaf, he's healed the lepers. He has, brought people back to life before. And now here Mary and Martha send and say, hey, look, Lazarus is sick. We need you to come. And he stays 2 days longer out in the wilderness. 2 days longer. So this is just Jesus. Basically, he's letting Lazarus die. He's letting Lazarus die so he can come in and show his power and show that he can bring him back from the dead. So it says, and after this, he says, all right, let's get up and go to Judea again. Now the disciples are kind of like, wait a minute. Let's think this through real quick, Jesus, before we go back to Judea. Do you remember what just happened in Judea? It was like 3 days ago, they tried to kill you. 3 days ago, they tried to stone you and put you in jail and arrest you, and you're ready to go back to Judea? What is wrong with you? And then Jesus says, are there not 12 hours in a day? So Jesus, he's just like, what? Are there not 12 hours in a day? And they're probably like, what is he talking about? So then he goes on to explain. He says, if you walk during the day, you're not going to stumble because you have the light. But if you walk at night, you're going to stumble because you have no light and it's not in him. It's not there for us to see. So basically, Jesus is just saying, look, I'm the light of the world. First of all, we've talked about this. We talked about this not too long ago, guys. I'm the light of the world. Nothing bad's going to happen. But obviously we need to go during the day, during the light. That way we can see what we're doing. So he goes through and he says, after he said these things, he said, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, and we've got to go to him. And they're like, okay, well, he fell asleep. That's cool. He was sick. He took a nap. He's good. Everything's good now. And he says, no, guys, listen, Lazarus has died, and for your sake, I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. I love how this is the book of John. So this account was written by someone who was there when Jesus was talking. And he said, now Jesus had spoken of his death, and they thought that he meant taking a rest and sleep. So even John is like, look, we missed it. We're idiots, basically. Jesus is talking about, him dying, but we're like, duh. He just took a nap, So I love how John calls himself out here and is like, look, yeah, we were stupid. But then Jesus talking plain and said, look, he died, and for your sake, I'm glad that he died. That way you can see the power that I have. Obviously it's bad that Lazarus died. Lazarus had to go through this. But it's a good thing because you're going to see my power. You're going to see what I can do so that you may believe. So then Thomas, listen, now Thomas comes out, and Thomas, called the twin, says to his fellow disciples, let us also go that we may die with him. Now, when you hear the name Thomas, what do you think of? He's the doubting Thomas. You think of the doubter. You think of Thomas being the doubter of when Jesus came back after the resurrection. He comes into the room and Thomas isn't there, and all the disciples see him, and then they tell Thomas, and Thomas is like, I'm not going to believe it until I touch his hands, until I touch his feet, until I put my hand in his side. And then a few days later, Jesus comes back to him and says, look, put your hands here. It's me. And then Thomas is like, yeah, okay, now I believe you guys. This is... that's what we think of when we think of Thomas. But, look what Thomas says. Thomas, the one called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let us also go that we may die with him. So Thomas is the one that says, hey, guys, look, yeah, we're going back to Judea where they said they're going to stone him, where they tried to stone him, where they tried to kill him, they tried to arrest him, and all of this stuff. Yeah, that's where we're going back. But look, guys, we need to go with him. Let us also go that we may die with him. So it's Thomas is the one that rallied troops to get them to go with Jesus. Because I'm sure there were a number of them that were like, look, we don't want to go. We don't want to go back to Judea. We don't go back to Jerusalem. We don't want to go anywhere near that place because they're wanting to kill you. If they're going to kill you, they're going to kill us. We don't want anything to do with that. But it's Thomas that's like, look, let us also go that we may die with him. He is committed, man. He is ready to go, ready to lay down his life for Jesus and for the cause and for the kingdom of God. So when we think about Thomas, we think about him being the doubter. But, if you look, he was dedicated. He was ready to go. So that's enough for today. That's just the first 16 verses of this story. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the story, but that kind of sets it up. Now we know where it is. It's Lazarus was a good friend of Jesus. He was the brother of Mary and Martha, whom Jesus loved desperately and deeply. And they are now going from the wilderness outside of the River Jordan and into Bethany to see him and to heal him. And Jesus says that the whole reason that Lazarus was sick and died was so his glory could be shown. So next time we'll look at 17, probably down through 27-ish, somewhere in there. And we'll look at that, and we'll look at the story of Lazarus, and we'll look at Jesus' response to that. So, all right, so enjoy, and until then, God bless. We'll see you guys later.